itching to ask this question. You talked about the neurobiology of confidence. Could you talk us through that, please? And audience, like, hang in there because Gabriella speaks so eloquently and she'll make it make sense, I know.
Well, thank you. And that's one of my favorite topics because I feel like it's important for us to remember that most spiritual traditions, personal development traditions, modern psychology emerged out of a masculine model of healing and transformation that is very left hemisphere. And what I mean by left hemisphere is the small part of our brain that thinks it's the commander that can tell us, all parts of us what to do. Doesn't really work that way. But it's this our left hemisphere is exceptional for following recipes, for building houses, for linear movement from A to B. And yet we have this right hemisphere that is larger in size. It has more cortical columns. It does all these amazing things. It actually connects us into our body and our autonomic nervous system. And it's extraordinary. Our right hemisphere is what connects us to our humanity. Our left hemisphere has no pathways into a sense of connection or relationship to other. It's just on its own little island telling us what to do. So most of the healing traditions that I grew up in, that I trained in, I have two master's degrees in psychology, all came from a very masculine oriented, mentally driven model of transformation and change that was built on the idea that once the wiring goes in from in utero to 27 years old is when our brain is forming. So everything that we're taking in from emotionally impactful experiences, from positive things, challenging things, it is forming the foundation for who we think we are. And then the rest of our life is attempting to sort of orient to that and organize some things that perhaps got seeded inside that told us that we weren't okay or that we have to be careful or scared of certain people or whatever all of the challenges are that we have. So to answer your question, I believe that one of the ways where the feminine has been what we're talking about with patriarchy in terms of where feminine power has been diminished is by taking the body and the brain out of the conversation of how we transform. And so, what I mean by that is for us humans, the way that God created us is that everything that forms our psychology and sense of self first comes in through a physiological mapping system. So, our body is taking in through our autonomic nervous system, which is our inborn guardian of safety, and pushing it up our brainstem, which then our brain is organizing and making meaning out of. So, what does that mean about confidence? Confidence isn't something that we can willfully tell ourselves to be more confident. It's something that actually asks for a different approach. And the approach that I see works. And I mean, I did my postgrad in relational neuroscience, and I'm on my 13th year of active training in this field because it's so brilliant and cutting edge. But we have this incredible brainstem. We have a subcortical brain, which is kind of the house of everything that gives us a sense of what it feels like to be me, my relationship with other humans. Do I belong here? The memories of, oh, will dogs bite me or are dogs good? Like everything is stored here. And then we have our neocortex, which is the newer brain, and it wraps over that. Our neocortex really does nothing for our core sense of self and that feeling of courage, confidence, ability to authentically express ourselves. And when things get tough, i.e., we get triggered, someone says something and like we feel like it's a gut punch, or something happens and we're embarrassed or we're on the spot, or this idea of like, oh no, I'm not good enough comes in, we literally temporarily disengage these neocortical pathways and we are in our midbrain. So, what does this mean about confidence? So, our midbrain, our subcortical brain, it's our subconscious. This drives 80% of our lived experience, and it doesn't speak English. And it shows up through aversions, it shows up through desires, it shows up through repulsions, it shows up through reactive tendencies. And so this is the driver of our lived experience where our top, our neocortex, our sort of newer brain, only has 20% capacity to actually govern, what we're doing at any given moment. It's like, okay, I'm going to pick up my lip gloss. I can direct myself in doing that. But I cannot direct myself to, like, I had a history of pretty severe sexual abuse and eating disorders. And so I cannot direct myself to feel safe in my body if I'm in the presence, through a lot of my life, if I was in a presence of a man that was stronger than me and that was leading with dominant energy. My body and brain would short circuit and I would just sort of freeze. And so, what do I do to create confidence then? It's not to say, oh, Gabriella, he's just your builder. He's not actually going to hurt you. And he's just, having an experience of being sort of aggressive, but that's him and that's me. My top brain isn't online in that moment to give me that sense of confidence that I can speak up. However, through doing the beautiful thing is there are so many pathways that we are discovering now as to how to attend and repair that which lives within our body brain. We can't override it. So I suppose what I would love to say, just in a more simple way to that response, is any system that is trying to get us to change our mind or get away from the hard feelings is an erroneous system that is not neurobiologically set up for success. So if I'm feeling insecure and I'm trying to tell myself mantras that I'm good enough, there's a disconnect. And that core feeling of insecurity that lives in my brain, it's not going to go anywhere. The way that we help reshape our brain in that core sense of self is through the feminine powers of curiosity, compassion, accompaniment, listening. Like, oh, tender one inside that's scared right now, that feels intimidated by this guy, that's unsure about if I can put my work forward in the world. Tell me more. What's it like to be you? Oh, tell me what's the support that you need, perhaps that you don't have already or that you've never had before. Oh, help me show you how I can be a resource for you of support. And then together we can grow stronger. And this actually starts building these pathways into the part of the frontal brain where confidence lives because it helps us repair at the core. So many of us feel invisible, alone, powerless in the hard areas of life. It's called being human. And by pushing those parts away and trying to overlay like some positive mantras on them, it doesn't actually change our neurobiological wiring. We want to greet the parts of us that are scared or uncertain with a new approach that honors the reality of what we're carrying and then paves a pathway to something new, which is through the accompaniment and connection to that which is beautiful about us and that where inherent health lives within us, where wisdom lives within us. So, I mean, I could riff on this I've been riffing on this for years and will continue to. So,
Please do. Rebecca said, wow, that makes so much sense. Thank you
right?
for detailing that. It explains a lot.
Yeah. I mean, look, that's why it's not working. Like I was friends with Bob Proctor when The Secret came out. Like those were a lot of the I was trained with Werner Erhard back in the S days, like Landmark. And that's why we're finding 30, 40 years later, those approaches don't work. The approaches that are telling us that somehow there's parts of us that aren't okay. And so we can't be like them, but instead go over here. These are the good parts, the confident parts.
Uh-huh.
Like that approach is just reinforcing the divided self, and it's just not working. It's
Wow,
particularly
I love
women.
that. Gabriella, we need to quote that and have that as a quote, but we're reinforcing the divided parts of
Yeah.
self.
Yeah.
Wow.